found this on Ganarum. Ganamir. What is it? Well, it's Synthaholics.
In my gravity boots, I'm stuck walking the hole with a pounding in my skull. Ain't nobody knows which way the solar wind blows. Better than a man being blown.
Welcome to Synthaholics, guys. This is your host, David Duncan, and with me is...
Aaron O'Brien.
And we've got two special guests today. Josiah.
Hello.
And Trevor.
Hi.
And Scott. No, not Scott.
Scott's not here.
Shut up, Scott. Shut up. Get out of here, Scott.
So Josiah and Trevor are from the Geekiverse.
If you remember that interview we had with Pete like a long time ago, I think it was last week.
Yeah, right. And they both have different functions. In there, they write different blogs and podcasts.
That's right.
And Josiah, you were just telling me that you do the podcast, the Geek Got Game, and also you write a lot about Star Wars Rebels and Gotham.
That's
and then Trevor, you have the podcast, Walking Red podcast.
Yep.
And then you write about Walking Dead.
It has nothing to do with his hair color.
Nothing.
Just a little bit.
Nothing.
But not really at all.
And Skyrim, so.
Yeah.
Like the 2011 Skyrim?
Some of that. And then
Sure.
You're not a versionist?
No. More specifically, the one that just came out. Remastered.
Skyrim Remastered.
It's so good.
When did that come out?
2 days ago.
Oh, nice.
On the 28th. No, 1 day ago? What is today?
Saturday.
Today's the 29th.
It came out on Thursday.
Yeah, Trevor's writing the review for that. I'm writing one for Titanfall 2. So we have a lot of video games over there, a lot of movies, everything.
Yeah, tons of stuff.
Lots of fun.
All sorts of stuff. But is it grumpy?
There's one.
One part of it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's not here, so we can talk so much trash about him, too.
The grumpy geek.
Oh, you just got the parent glasses look where they look down.
Over the glasses.
That's when you know you're in trouble.
That's like
the
librarian
ire
look.
of the grumpy geek.
The librarian.
Well, so you guys are very active in the podcast world, and you guys also have your own web content that you keep pushing out. And obviously, Dave met most of you at the
Buffalo Comic-Con. It was just such great times. We met Robbie from the Artful Gremlins. We met he actually introduced me to you guys.
Right.
Robbie's awesome.
Robbie is awesome, and this is going to be our second off-ball non-Star Trek episode. That we're kind of moving forward with. We started with episode 1 with Robbie from the Geekiverse.
The Phantom Menace. We're sorry.
But we hope it was entertaining anyway.
It was a great episode. Trevor and I listened to it the other day, kind of prepped for this.
Nice.
Learned a lot.
Knew what you were in for.
Prep is good. And then
The most, I think, startling revelation, though, was that you saw Phantom Menace 7 times in theaters.
I haven't gotten hate mail for that yet.
Not yet.
I have it saved to draft.
It's on the way.
No, I'm just kidding.
And in this episode, we're going to talk about episode 2, Attack of the Clones. But
speaking of hate mail.
Well, let's not get into that now.
Okay.
So Attack of the Clones obviously was the sequel to Phantom Menace.
Was it?
I had a revelation.
When you were rewatching this?
I was rewatching, and I was like, the prequels are almost like, when you fall in love with somebody and you're just like totally into them, and this when you first saw the first New Hope, Empire, and Return of the Jedi. I mean, you had great dates. Now you're moving in with each other, and then you find out that your girlfriend.
Been 20 years.
You find your girlfriend and boyfriend, your husband, your spouse, your wife. They have those habits They do
Just those
things that
horrible
drive you
habits.
crazy.
Like they say
You find out he farts really obnoxious smells.
They say, "Okay."
She leaves her makeup everywhere. All this stuff, and you're just like, oh, it used to be so magical. What happened? And this is how I sort of feel about the prequels. It's like you want to love it.
That's
You
not
want to
the way
love
to
it.
put it. It really is. I like that. I've never heard that explanation about it before.
Yeah.
I might be like a prequels apologist. Obviously, I'm a huge Star Wars
Sweet,
fan.
we've got a prequels apologist. But before we get too much more into episode 2, as you said, you've both heard our first episode. We kind of gave our how we came to Star Wars, why we love it, because we don't want to come off as the Star Trek podcast that hates Star Wars. We love Star Wars. It's just these are the hard ones, and we're kind of trying to do it in chronological order, ending with Rogue One coming in January, because we'll probably see it mid-December, and time it takes to put things out. But where did you guys start with Star Wars, and what made it so big in your lives?
Yeah, sir, Trevor.
Well, I started. That's like I have like horrible memory, horrible memory. But I always have
Did
like.
you block it out?
I think some of it I did. Some of it was just like horrible. And
All that
I can't
abuse.
remember it. all of that horrible. No, it was.
Well, you were beaten by a stormtrooper. Did they ever miss?
They always
all the
miss.
time.
That's why I don't have
Ironically,
any
they only
scars or anything. I have 0 scars because the stormtroopers just can't hit me.
That's great.
But I have just like these weird memories from when I was like really little. And I don't remember how old I was, maybe like 10 years old, but I do remember like sitting at my grandparents' house watching episode 4 where the stormtroopers are riding on the dewbacks. I couldn't remember the name for a second.
Yeah.
And I just remember like seeing that and like, oh, what are these giant lizard things? Because at the time I was like super into like the Crocodile Hunter and stuff like that. So I was like, oh man, what are these giant things? And that's kind of
Not
how
stingrays.
No, yeah.
No stingrays.
Rip Steve Irwin.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
Yes.
But yeah, so that's how I kind of started, and I got super into it after I watched that. I can remember like going to see episode 3 with my grandpa and my brother, and we were just like so pumped to go see it.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, just that kind
So
of.
that captured your imagination right there.
Yeah, and even like after that, I can remember like drawing stormtrooper helmets, or like how a lot of clone troopers had like different style helmets.
Right,
And
right.
I remember I had like a sketchbook where like 3 or 4 pages was just different style stormtrooper helmets that I could think of.
Okay.
That I like made up.
So you were very into the visual aspect of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which it is. All of it's very visually stunning.
You know what's funny? One thing I did not mention whenever we were talking about how we fell in love with Star Wars. My favorite Star Wars video game growing up was TIE Fighter. It was the space flight simulator where you were the Empire and you shot down X-wings, Y-wings, A-wings. It was the best thing ever. It was the best feeling being the bad guy. Right. It's kind of why I fell in love with video games. But I played this game so much. My brother played this game so much. I had auditory hallucinations of Star Wars music, the sound of TIE fighters, and and the sound of blaster fire coming from the TIE fighters. Because I would be sitting in the living room reading, trying to do school homework or whatever, and I'd hear it, and then like my brother wasn't playing the game, was he?
Can I just go on? I'm sorry. I'm gonna like interrupt this whole flow of this. I had auditory hallucinations too in my room. And when I was a little boy, I had a poster, and I loved Darth Vader. Like he was I thought he was the best. I had a giant poster of Darth Vader.
So you're Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
Do you keep the helmet in ashes?
But my hair is fantastic.
Not curly though.
But I would hear him breathe.
Oh man.
I would hear him breathe in my room when I was alone.
That's a little nuts.
Just because of like when Luke hears him breathing in on Dagobah.
Yeah, on Empire.
Man, that would creep me out.
Yeah, it did creep me out, and I actually. Well, it's a different thing. I'm not schizophrenic.
But I mean, I would go back. I would go back to where the computer was, and then no one would be on it. It would be off. The screen would be black. I was like, what happened? I literally would hear the game.
Okay, let's not go into our psychotic side of things. Josiah,
it's
Josiah, why don't you
talking, maybe
please
think
tell
of
us? Please tell us a sane story.
Please get us off this.
Yeah.
You guys regret coming on the show. I'm so sorry.
First of all,
Where are my antipsychotic pills?
We are super thrilled to be here, so thank you for having us on.
Oh yeah, thank
We've been
you.
looking forward
Thank
to
you
it
for
a long
coming.
time.
Awesome.
And thank you for hosting us tonight.
Absolutely. This will be a blast. So I think I remember quite a bit about my childhood, but particularly those Star Wars moments, or that kind of got you into it. So when special edition Star Wars came back to theaters in 1997, I would have been 6 years old. That's when my dad, I knew we were going to the Galleria Mall and got to the movie theaters. I didn't know what we were going to see, but he goes, 2 tickets to Star Wars. So we went and saw New Hope. That was it for me. After that, I was totally enamored. We went and saw Empire a few months later.
This is the first time you ever saw it.
First time.
Well,
So I
that's
got to see it
awesome.
on
You saw it on
screen.
the big screen.
Right.
It wasn't even like, on like some small TV set. You're like, oh,
Exactly.
that's cool.
So was this when like the re-release came out?
Yeah.
In the
They-
90s?
They
Yeah.
did 1997.
Is when they redid the graphics?
I think they were the special edition.
Yeah, especially. Yeah, only saw episode 4 in the movie theaters, and it was like the cheap dollar store theater.
Yeah.
And like they had the treble turned all the way up, so every single time R2-D2 made a noise, I wanted to
Just cover your
hold my
ears.
ears
Yeah.
and scream.
Right.
Like I did not go back and see the special editions in the movie theater because of that
Brutal.
experience.
That's horrible.
I loved that. So I legitimately, that was my first exposure to it. Didn't know any of the story, and I watched movie to movie. And I think they came out like every 2 months or something like that.
Yeah, they were really close because they were the special edition. Yeah.
Kind of to get people hyped for the
Phantom Menace.
a few years later.
It's like-
And then you're like, "Rrr."
I remember I went. My dad took me to the library. I got a bunch of Star Wars books out. I got the chapter book of Empire Strikes Back.
Wow.
And I drew in it.
Of course you did.
And I remember taking it back to the library, and
I don't want this anymore.
I kind of got the look from the librarian that Pete gave Trevor a little bit ago. Ironically,
Glasses and all.
seriously, it was kind of like shameful. And then there was the one other kind of funny memory when I was probably 7 at this point, but my family had wanted a dog for a long time, and I remember just before my parents brought the dog into the house, my dad goes, what have we wanted for a long time? We've got a surprise for you.
A lightsaber.
I go, an R2-D2 action figure. We got it. I was like, no. I'm like, oh. And then it was a dog.
This dog sucks.
Did you name the
That would be
dog?
R2.
You named the dog R2-D2?
What'd you name it?
Comet. That was
right.
cliche,
Nothing like R2-D2.
No.
It sounded close like it.
No, not at all. But, in the back of my mind, that was there. So,
Yeah.
I'm a lifer at this point.
Well, that's awesome. So, yeah, that's actually, your dad was very clever with that, trying to engage you, especially the big screen, seeing that. That's got to be pretty exciting as a kid.
It was great seeing it that way. I'm glad I saw it on the big screen the first time because it lined up perfectly, obviously, with my age. And when it came out originally in the late 70s and 80s, I'm sure that was what sparked it for a lot of people, too, kind of being able to see it there and immersed in the sights and sounds. And it was pretty awesome.
For me, because I was probably your age when it came out. I'm quite a bit older, and obviously,
You don't look it. I would never know that.
thank you. But that was like usually like, whoa, what the hell? And one of the strong things that visually I remember, and this is going to Empire, whenever that was 80, 81.
80.
Yeah. Was
77, 80, and 83.
when the speeders are in Hoth and they're going up and down the hills. I literally felt like my seat was going like up and down, up and down. I literally felt it, and it was just because you're on a big screen, and it's like
it's not Star Tours.
yeah, it's not Star Tours. I've been on Star Tours.
Yeah, Star Tours is awesome.
Yeah,
I guess they
yeah.
revamped it, though.
I heard I hear it changes like every time you go on. I mean, not every time.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you go on it back to back, it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Next
Yeah.
time.
I think
so.
they revamped it for Force Awakens and all the new stuff.
Oh,
but that's
Oh, that's so cool.
Well, let's get into the subject here, the meat of the subject of Attack of the Clones. I personally, I don't want to go through the blow-by-blow of that movie, but I do believe that this movie is a better movie than Phantom Menace, but it still is not a great movie.
Yeah, for sure.
There's more cool aspects and awesome scenes and fight scenes and stuff like that, but it doesn't. The stories don't. The interconnecting plots don't really make you go like, wow, I want to. I want to find out more about this. Or
And the saddest thing about it is that, I watched again with the commentary on. I go to no short links for you guys.
this is true.
he's going for a prostate exam for myself later on. I'm Aaron O'Brien.
What a guy!
It puts the meat in the oven.
Oh no! All right, so he's watched that.
So I George Lucas was extremely lifeless in
Monotone.
episode 1, but he was like basically in the grave on this one. Like I don't know when the commentary was recorded. They said something like 2 years later, so I'm not sure if it's 2 years after the movie was filmed, or if it was 2 years after it came out on Blu-ray or DVD or whatever its an original release was. So like. It's probably, if it's been 2 years, beyond either time, George Lucas has had all the hate from Jar Jar, the hate about the love story. So, like, George Lucas is, like, dying on the inside, and he just can't get out anything, like,
He's under this huge boulder weight of hate and disappointment from everybody.
Let's just finish this thing.
And his box office numbers are never going to beat Titanic, and he's just depressed. So it's just, and the thing is, there's like, we last time we went over the Jar Jar theory, and I was kind of hoping maybe he'd like wax philosophical a little bit, and it's like, we were planning on this, but no, George Lucas is just
tight-lipped.
We'll never hear it.
Tight-lipped and defeated. Like it's just kind of sad just listening to him kind of drone on about how he's like, well, in order to get them here, I had to do this just because, they had to get there. So that's why it happened. It's just like,
yeah.
Wow. It's like, I mean, like, people like the Red Letter Media guys have complained about how lazy your filmmaking is, but now you're basically admitting it.
Yeah.
Out loud. I'm like, no, George, come on. Prove these people wrong. Tell them why you did it in a good way instead of like, well, they had to be there, so this is why I wrote it that way.
Well, going on that, and obviously you two seeing it much fresher eyes than we did. You saw Phantom Menace in the theaters, and and now Attack of the Clones. What was your feeling when you saw it? Were you like blown away? Were you just like what was your initial reaction?
Yeah, how old were you guys when you first saw them? The prequels.
So Attack of the Clones, I would have been 11.
Okay, so you were
You would
pretty
have been
young.
9.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I was in college.
I didn't want to talk about my age.
You already had 2 kids. No.
No, I was kidless at the time, but shut up. All right, but
I'm certain to get
it'll happen to all of you. Don't worry.
Grumpy Geek's gonna kill me.
We hear it all the time.
But what was like? You walk out of the theater. I mean, obviously, you're probably a little juiced seeing it, but like after a little reflection, were you still excited, or were you like kind of like picking it apart, or how was your feeling seeing it?
Being that age maybe helped.
11, yeah, 11's a great age to be.
I loved it, honestly.
Okay, yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I mean, like, as someone who loved it, like on their first showing, I want to hear like what made this movie stand out to you as someone who loved it upon your first viewing.
A few things. I mean, you can look back now and kind of pick it apart a little bit more.
Of course.
Obviously, all these years later.
You become more mature and you see other movies that are...
Yeah.
You become more critical, right?
And now we kind of have, like, a good view of, like, really good movies and how they're supposed to be. So
you've seen The Godfather. You've seen, like, the really classic movies.
The first Matrix.
You don't really, like... You're not introduced to good film like you are now.
Yeah.
So I think... I don't know. Like, I have to admit that I did like it a lot.
Okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
I just want to hear what made it stand out. Like any favorite scenes? Like, why was this so impressive?
For me, like Attack of the Clones or
Attack of the Clones.
Attack of the Clones was awesome because I really liked seeing all the Jedi, in the same place fighting
in that arena.
All the droids. Yeah. Exactly. It was amazing.
I gotta admit that was kind of cool.
I love the. I think that was a big one.
Except for I was old enough to be like, how come they're dying so easy? Like Jango Fett shot 3 blaster bolts and killed that one guy and falling off the edge. I'm like, really?
Yeah,
you can't block 3 shots.
That was a little weak.
Like
Jango's not that good.
What happened to your super force speed? And like, I'm just like, it was impressive to see, but at the same time, like, why are these Jedi so wimpy?
He was a Jedi intern. He wasn't even an apprentice. They were like, we need all the Jedi and even all the people who can hold a lightsaber.
I don't really know how to use my lightsaber.
I heard it can block a blaster. I'm not sure, though. And he falls off the precipice and dies.
And how about you, Josiah? You went and saw it. You're a little bit older than Trevor, but walking out of it.
I think the Clone Wars scene totally blew me away. For whatever it was, maybe it was jumping from episode 1 to episode 2, the feeling of darkness that kind of
Loomed on it?
felt for this movie.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was totally into it. I love how everything kind of intertwined. I liked... Obviously, we knew what was going to be the result of episode 3.
Sure.
We didn't quite know what was going to be the result of episode 2, if that makes sense. Like, we knew kind of what was going to be the path to getting to
You knew the clones were involved.
Sure. You know that was going to trigger the bigger galactic event. But I loved that. I loved even the lightsaber battle at the end. I thought, like I said, looking back now,
With Yoda flipping around and
I
being
loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it. And I think my theater that I was in ate it up too, because everybody was applauding.
Oh yeah, when the Yoda's there, everyone's just laughing and having a great time when they see it. And they're like, "What the fuck?"
Mind blown, right?
Yeah.
And I think the CGI in this movie was better than it was
Much
in episode
better.
3 even. But episode 3 almost felt lazy, and I can point to a few certain events that looked like, oh my gosh, that's bad.
I'll give you that. I think that the CGI is pretty good on this one. It's much better than Phantom Menace. Phantom Menace looks like a Looney Tunes cartoon.
Also on the commentary, you got the CG artist going. It's like, well, we had to animate Yoda's ears to bounce so it matched the puppet.
and George Lucas just goes, "Shut up."
George Lucas is like, "Yep, it had
They
to
also
match the
didn't
puppet."
make a single physical clone costume for the movie.
No, they didn't.
Which is awesome.
Everything was CG.
Those looked pretty good to me, I thought. But
I think beyond the poor script writing and just what the movie was, to me, the reason Episode 2, Attack the Clones, was so disappointing was because when I had seen Episode 4 and Obi-Wan said, "I fought with your father in the Clone Wars," like when I heard Clone Wars and they didn't expound upon it any more than "I fought with your father and he was a good pilot," and in the Clone Wars, in my mind as a child, because I was younger, pre-college when I saw the original trilogy, I was in grade school. Mm-hmm. When I thought Clone Wars, I was like, they cloned the Jedi and they were fighting each other? Like, how freaking cool would that be? Like, I didn't have a concept of what Game of Thrones was, but like thinking back on it, I'm like, this should have been like Game of Thrones style, like you don't know who's good, who's bad, because all the good guys are clones. And the clones got to be the bad guys, right? Interesting. So, just imagine a Star Wars written on intrigue and backstabbing because you don't know, like, there's just one clone, and there's, like, 3 clones, and there's 4 clones, and you don't know this would have been so fascinating and so...
That was one of the things in Episode 4 when, Obi-Wan says that, you just, like, it sparks your imagination, like, what is that about? But they never go into it, obviously. Well, they do way later. Did you guys ever see the Clone Wars, not the newer animated, but the older one?
Like the Samurai Jack?
Samurai Jack?
I did not see that one.
I think
I have
that
those on
might
DVD.
That might be better than Episode 7 for me, honestly.
Yeah.
Like way over Episode 7.
They are really, really fantastic.
Oh my, yeah,
they're so fun.
And that's one of the things that I don't like about the gap between Episode 2 and Episode 3 is that like there's so much stuff that they could have like done to like maybe close that gap a little bit
you
more.
See, I think I said this in the show in the first episode, but like Episode 1 should have been the crawl for Episode 2. Episode 2 should have been Episode 1. Episode 3 should have been Episode 2, and Episode 3 should have been Darth Vader kicking everyone's ass all the time.
Gotcha. I think you mentioned that, honestly, the Clone Wars, because Trevor and I talked about it, I think 2 weeks in a row on Walking Carpet, and how much we loved those. I think there was 2 animated bits for that they kind of put all the clips together on, and it made a greater movie kind of thing.
Yeah.
I love, we particularly loved how it kind of fell into Episode 3 with the Chancellor getting kidnapped and Grievous even explaining his breathing.
It does, because what is his, Windu crushes his chest there, and that's why he does the wheezing thing. So you see that in there, in the cartoon. and it's great. It's awesome. Now,
I didn't know that.
It's awesome. It's an
Really
it's-
well
Yeah,
done.
if you haven't seen it, you should watch
I have
it.
the DVDs.
I've seen some of the CGI.
I have
Clone
all the
Wars, but-
DVDs. You should
But
borrow
I
them.
have the issue watching the Clone Wars because like almost none of it really matters except for maybe Ahsoka because I mean you all know where the characters end up.
And the other thing is
That's why I started watching and started and stopped.
the thing with me with the Clone Wars is that I just there was too many episodes for me to follow, and I just started losing it because I was watching when it was on TV. So I'd miss like 2 episodes, and I'd be
Yeah.
like, "What the fuck is going on?"
And
you
a lot
know?
of them are very like.
And they don't even play in order, so they jump. They're
gonna say,
weird
that's
order.
bizarre. The first 3 seasons are not chronological. How
They
does
don't make
that
any
happen?
sense.
That's bizarre.
Yeah, it doesn't really make any sense.
Well, besides that, I mean, because obviously Attack of the Clones is the start of the Clone Wars, so I mean, we get sort of like the prequel or of prelude.
But the thing is, like Attack of the Clones, like the title itself makes me think the clones are the bad guys. I mean, like the whole, like, and then it's like they're.
I never thought of it that way.
I mean, like
but it's just they're attacking. Doesn't mean they're bad.
It's not wrong.
no, it is wrong. It's defend the clones. The clones came in to defend the Jedi. The clones came in to defend the Jedi and Geonosis. They did not start the attack. The Geonosians started the attack when they kidnapped.
Yeah, but
the
that-
Jedi.
Attack of the Geonosians would have been even less popular.
Yeah, and everyone would be like,
At
"What?
least that would have made like sort of sense. Like,
Who are they? Why do I care?" So
or just not call it attack of whatever. Just call it like romance in space.
So I just
That's like my least favorite part of.
Oh yeah, we'll do a whole. We'll get into that. But wait, before we get into that, I just want to say a few things. The things I do like about the film.
There are things you like.
There are things I love. Some of the visual effects obviously are awesome. I know some people don't like it, but I like the car chase on Coruscant. I think that's great.
Oh, yeah.
I have a lot of fun watching that. I like the battle between Jango and Obi-Wan. I think that's great.
Because it's a fist fight. They pointed out that very specifically in the commentary. We've never seen a Jedi punch anybody before.
Oh, it's just great. It's just fun. It's
a great environment too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a great planet.
Kamino looked
I really
really cool.
liked the whole scene on Kamino.
Yeah.
Not even just the fight. I just like the idea.
It was a night. It was a cool scenery and the whole idea
Yeah,
of
Rain
The
and
whole
thunderstorms.
idea.
I liked the feel of Kamino, but I just feel so bad for Ewan McGregor walking around in this giant green room
Literally
with nothing,
talking to no one.
nothing.
That's got to be
see.
so awful.
Like half the movie he was there half the movie. So
Yeah.
like that must have been so boring.
I actually think that Ewan McGregor is a fantastic actor.
He is.
He did a. I don't know if you guys have seen this. He does this thing where he rides his motorcycle with his friend, and you can do it on Netflix.
I kind of talked about that the other day.
I think you brought it up.
It is
Yeah.
so engaging, and it's the stupidest thing. He rides his motorcycle with his friend through Africa, and then they do it through Russia, and it's just like he's just so amazing. You know,
Yeah, he
It's
was
just-
on. It was like Late Night with Jimmy Fallon or something like that, or
Yeah.
maybe it was like Jimmy Kimmel. But he was talking about how like he took this European sports car across the country and then drove it back. And when he got to Utah, he like ran out of gas on the side of the road.
Right.
And he had decided to dress up in like this blue jumpsuit, like a 1960s like Italian mechanic or something like that. And then so when he ran out of gas, he was trying to like flag people down, and they're like, "What's this Italian dude like on the side of the road for?" Like, and nobody stopped for him except for like one person that saw that documentary.
He did a documentary about polar bears up in like Canada.
He's so cool.
And I got to tell you, this was it for me. And I don't know what it is, but he was staying with some Canadian couple way up in the Arctic, and they're having a couple laughs at the end of the day of filming the polar bears. And this is in the documentary. He pulls out a guitar, and he just does this quick little song, and I'm literally in love with the man. Like, I want to make out with him. He's just so amazing. I'm like, this guy is just incredible. Like, he just is.
He seduced you through the television set.
Yeah, he was like, he's so great, and it wasn't
Producer,
anything,
seducer.
and it wasn't anything amazing. It was just him just being himself, and it was just like, oh, that's awesome. So yeah, so
There's lots
he's
of natural charisma.
he is just
It's the same thing with Oscar Isaac.
yeah, okay,
He's a cool guy too.
yeah.
Oh, I mean, like seeing him in Ex Machina was like so weird. Like,
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I watched episode 7 like 5 times. We talked about that before. How many times we've seen it? But
on our bathroom break,
Yeah.
intimate times, guys.
But so then after I saw it, like even like in between seeing episode 7, I would watch like Ex Machina or however you say it.
Ex Machina.
Yeah. And then I would see him in other stuff too, and I'd be like, "Oh, that's Poe Dameron. He's so cool." When he was like in all this stuff before he was in Star Wars,
Right. And just one other thing is the when he's going to Genosha and he's chasing Django, and they're having through the asteroid field with the explosions.
Yeah, that was another one.
That was one. I was like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Did you hear? Maybe I think Lucas brought it up in the commentary that's how Boba Fett knew to wait for.
Yeah,
Han
it was.
Empire.
But the thing is, like,
How would he know that?
A little bizarre.
they're not even the same. They're not even the same. They're not the same person. And
Well, Boba was
in
there.
the ship.
Boba was there, but no, I'm saying like
He didn't know that Obi-Wan necessarily.
Obi-Wan
waited
isn't
there.
Han Solo. So also, Boba Fett was in the trash. Like his ship was like sitting in the trash bin that
Yeah.
they let him out. I mean, so.
Right.
It wasn't like he knew. Like it was just.
That's bullshit.
I mean,
He was trying to be like, "Hey, Empire was a good movie. How can we tie it to
well,
that?"
like I think one of the most things that made me cringe the most in the commentary was them talking about that scene, because he was like, "Well, I want the sound to be after the initial light." He's like, "You know how in space black holes have." It wasn't Lucas. It was Rick McCollum, I think. You know how black holes, like light gets sucked in, they can't even escape? This is going to be a sound black hole. It pulls all the sound in and then it lets it out.
The sonic charge or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First of all, no sound exists in space.
there's no
All
sound
of space is a sound black hole.
There's no
Science, people!
There's no air molecules in space.
All of space is a sound black hole. Technically, there shouldn't have been any sound in the entire
For what
scene.
it's worth, it sounded cool. It's just the logic behind it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but it's saying it was an audio black hole. I'm like, yeah, it's not a thing.
So those are things scenes I love. There's obviously no real plot to it. There's really nothing in the plot I really grab onto. But those are the scenes I'm like, every time it seems like, well, this is cool. I like watch this. So I mean, it's eye candy purely. So
Yeah,
it's science fiction
it was
pornography. That's what it is. That's all it is. You're just like, whoa. So
Maybe we should call this episode science fiction pornography, since we called the last one midichlorian prophylactics.
there you go. There you go.
It's a series now.
I want to focus on something that has bothered me since the conception of this.
I see what you did there.
Conception. Is the idea that we're taking a hero and he will be twisted into a villain.
Wanna be a hero,
Now-
baby?
I grew up, with, Luke and Han as the heroes, and they were always the heroes. You guys were younger, and obviously you've seen, like episode 4, that was your first introduction, and you saw the first episode 4 in the theater, so you had like a little primer to the whole thing. But I had like years to gestate that these are the heroes that you follow. And what does it do to a young mind when the hero, Anakin Skywalker, he's going to be the villain? Yeah, I mean, you make the logical leap. Do you like say like he's pretty cool, I like him, or do you go like he's kind of a dick?
I totally want to
Like,
kill a bunch of children storm.
What is your mental process as a young person? Because I didn't experience it I experienced it as an adult watching it. So what was your thought? And I wrestled with that when that came out. I was like, what does that do to a young mind?
It's kind of like what Robbie said. Like Obi-Wan should have been the main protagonist.
I agree with that completely.
Of the 3 films, and Anakin is just like a side character.
That was probably the most insightful thing about this whole thing. I wish Lucas got that note, but
Yeah.
I don't know. It's different kind of
protagonist.
protagonist. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. That was fantastic.
We were laughing so
and
hard.
then we
when
started
were
saying
listening.
anagonist. Yeah.
Protagonist.
I think
I mean, what did it do to you personally, and did you have any reflection
as
on that?
children? Because I was already basically in college when the
it
movies came
never
out.
phased me. I knew the entire.
But you knew that. But there was times when he's kind of cool, and you're like, "Oh, that's neat." I like that, or I like
when he's rolling around the field with a hot woman.
Well, yeah.
Who didn't want
Cool.
to? But what was
Natalie
your
Portman,
But yeah. But what
my
was?
goodness.
But did you make any kind of like concessions to him, just if you can dial back the clock in your mind, like what was your thoughts of that?
I feel like,
or was there no thoughts whatsoever?
for better or worse, I bought into it. I bought in, he's good now. He's got this dark side to him. Like, seriously, no pun intended there. But, like, I don't know. I guess I didn't really consider that. I just kind of, Anakin, we know the end goal. We know at some point something or some amount of events are going to happen that are going to get him there.
Which is interesting.
And I don't know. Maybe, Trevor, you can elaborate
And what
more.
about you, Trevor? Did you consider that at all?
I'm blaming everything bad that I did as a kid on that. Now that you just kind of brought it up.
I'm sorry, Mom. I'm sorry, Dad.
Star Wars.
I was a horrible kid because
Because of Hayden Christensen.
Hayden Christensen ruined my childhood.
It's something I really wrestled with as not morally or ethically, but I just thought, like, what does that do to a young mind?
Yeah,
like.
And I was kind of like a dumb kid because I didn't really realize. Well, no, I talked about this with Joe the other day. I didn't realize that Senator Palpatine was going to become Emperor Palpatine. I was just a stupid kid. And as soon
Wow,
as
you never made that connection?
No. Yeah. So in episode 3, like as
you
soon
were like,
as,
oh my gosh, shit!
yeah,
He looks
yeah.
like Sidious.
No, I seriously went to go see episode 3 with like my.
How
my
old
brother.
were you? How old were you? Because that's what George Lucas wrote. Who wrote the movies for.
When it first came out.
I'm sorry.
No, and I'm really glad that you guys are laughing.
Bless your heart.
Because like my whole life, I've always been like, dude, I'm such a stupid kid. Like,
No.
what else?
No,
what did I?
you're not.
What did
George
I do?
Lucas wrote the movies for that age, whatever age that was. You were like the perfect.
Yeah, you
like
were.
George Lucas wrote these movies for you.
Yeah.
I was telling
specifically.
Trevor my logic behind.
Thank you, George Lucas, for helping Trevor have this amazing
But so, like,
revelation.
exactly what happened with you. I like looked over at my friends. I was like, "Oh man!" And I looked over, and my grandpa, who like isn't that into Star Wars, is like, "What? You didn't know that?" And I was like, "What?" It's like my grandpa.
Your grandpa's probably like,
Seriously.
he's been to like Vietnam.
Yeah.
He's seen everything. He doesn't care a shit about. He's like, he's seen the worst of worst, and he's like, everybody fucking knows that.
Yeah. It was that day that he wrote me out of his will. He was just like,
He's hopeless.
Next to it just says Palpatine.
I willed it to Palpatine.
freaking idiot.
That's great. That's great. So you didn't give
man.
any thought
Yeah, I didn't really-
of Anakin being the villain,
Yeah, I was just kind of like,
or potential villain.
yeah, I was just kind of like, well, me as a little kid, I have like dark moments where I like yell at my mom and dad, and I'm supposed to be a good kid. But like, it's just kind of like something that happens, I guess, is what I was thinking. in
Well,
my
you're
head.
human.
Yeah, it was kind of like humanizing the Jedi, because the Jedi are always supposed to be like all powerful.
They're almost
all-seeing.
monk-like. They're
Yeah.
like unreproachable.
Yeah, so just having like, it was very relatable.
Yeah.
I guess at the moment.
Okay.
And then moving up to episode 3, then you kind of realize, oh well, this isn't like a natural thing. Like, it's natural to be angry sometimes, but
Yeah.
like
Right.
not like that.
The transformation happens quickly.
Yeah.
And in episode 2, it feels a little more organic to me. And then episode 3, just a switch. All of a sudden,
He's killing children.
I'm going to kill everybody in about 20 minutes.
It's Sandy Hook, you know.
No
he's like, what the fuck? Where did that come from?
Jedi Sandy Hook. No, but
That's Sandy Hook.
but I mean, he was more desperate in episode 3, I think. When the switch happened, because like he's having. Like, he had visions of his mom dying in this movie, and she did. And then the same thing's now happening to Padme, so he's, like, super freaking desperate.
Yeah.
Right, so he
Yeah.
makes the deal with the devil, so to say. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can make those connections, and I understand what Lucas is doing. He's setting up the fear, and you see he's a fearful person. And there are people I've met in my life that they're not a bad person, but their fear rules their life. It's they don't they can't get control of it, and so they overcompensate for everything.
It's a powerful thing.
It is. It's a human reaction. Some people deal with it differently. So I think his character is interesting. I think how it plays up in the script gets a little contrived, and I don't know. I know that he's not a bad actor, but the way he gives some of his lines sometimes, like when he's in the room while Padme's packing and he's complaining about Obi-Wan, you're like, at first it's okay, and then you're just like, it's not just that. He's over controlling. He's you're just like
it's George Lucas's incompetency as a director. George Lucas all the actors in episode 1 were fantastic, except for maybe Jake Lloyd. Almost all the actors in episode 2 were great because all of them are the same. Ewan McGregor, Natalie Portman. These are all actors who have given amazing performances elsewhere. Like me personally, I don't think Vin Diesel's a very good actor. But Chronicles of Riddick, that director was able to get some really good moments out of Vin Diesel. Yeah. It's all about the director and his relationship.
It's interesting that you just brought that up because I just recently listened to Mark Maron's podcast and WTF, and he interviewed Ron Howard, who was in American Graffiti, which George Lucas directed. And Ron Howard obviously was Opie, and I mean all these. Yeah, all those old TV shows. So he was a veteran actor before he became obviously a big director, and he was in the movie. And George Lucas wasn't given many direction, and he goes, "Look," he'd be like, "Oh, that's fine, that's terrific." And Ron says, "If there's something that you want me to do, just let me know because."
You kind of get the sense that that's what happened with this.
Yeah, like he's just completely hands off, and that's what. And he literally says this to Mark Maron in the podcast. Like he literally gives you no direction. You just do whatever you want to do. And like where he was a method actor, like if he had a scene with you, he would just rehearse it back and forth until you got it right.
Yeah,
and it like he would go and like he would do like 3 takes and be like, okay, that's good, and and he'd be like.
Really?
Yeah, that's it. That's all you're gonna do. So maybe there just was no director on direction and he needed that.
George Lucas,
I mean, he was a young kid too. I mean, he was probably in his 20s, so whatever.
Yeah, George Lucas needs he's just so, and then especially in the prequels, and especially if you watch the Red Letter Media reviews of the prequel movies, like the Plinkett guys always complaining that George Lucas is sitting behind the camera in his chair in a giant green room, and that's all he does. He sits in his chair, drinks his coffee, doesn't do anything. He just watches it through the camera and says again, or.
Well, and
it's just like if he wrote the story fine. If he brought in a veteran, someone who knew how to direct, that would have been so much. Because I mean, episodes 5 and 6 were co-written by other people and directed by other people, and they're vastly superior films to. Oh, in 6 and 7 too, I guess, are vastly superior to 1, 2, and 3 and 4 because actual direction and different screenwriter.
Well. And just going along with that, so, I think his character is believable and there's some great parts to it. Like, when he kills the sand people, you kind of side with them.
I just wish that scene was a little bit longer.
But you kind of side with them, but you're just like, well, obviously he was pushed emotionally to this point where he can't
But, then it gets creepy where he's, talking to Padme, he's like, I just didn't kill the men. I killed the women and the children, too. That's when she should have walked out see ya.
It's like, you're going to kill a lot more children. So it doesn't matter.
It's like, great dad. No, that's an X.
You are not mating material.
You're not father material.
You're a monster.
But speaking of, the love scenes and how we were alluding to earlier, how terrible they are, I made everyone watch another video about Star Wars theory, but this is one I do not agree with this time. Cracked.com did a video on how to make the prequels tolerable, and it's by pretending that there's a love triangle between Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Padme.
This is such a stretch for me.
Which makes absolutely zero sense. She spent the entire first movie with Anakin. Obi-Wan was on the ship the entire time. I don't even think they saw each other.
What are we just talking about? Kind of the Jedi are almost monk-like a little bit. Obi-Wan is like that pillar, that one guy who you feel like would never break the Jedi code. Yeah. He's by the book.
Also, if you watch the computer animated Star Wars Clone Wars, he had the Queen of the Mandalore thing he had a thing for, and he offered to leave the Jedi Order for her. From what I understand,
I don't remember that for some reason.
He said that he would have left with her, and then
But she said no. I think she needed. I don't remember. I remember reading it that he offered to. So there was something but it just just didn't work out. So I mean I just if he did this before, why wouldn't he have done it again? And it just. And the only evidence Cracked gives in this movie is that it makes more sense that he's older, but she didn't spend any time with him. She doesn't know who he is. And then second of all, like the placement of her hand on his thigh whenever he jumps
That's
up
the stupidest thing in the world.
on the beast. Like every other that scene is like 0.5
Dave,
seconds.
I've put my hand on your thigh so many times.
I know, right? Like, when we talked
It's
in the
there
car,
right now.
it's
It's been there the whole time.
It's really putting these guys off.
but
I just didn't know if that was like
That's a thing.
a podcast thing.
Yeah.
it's co-host thing.
I was gonna
Put your-
scooch over closer to
You
Joe's.
put your
All right, Trevor, you're out for walking
on the
garbage.
inner thigh.
It makes a circle jerk easier later.
But the only thing that was redeemable about that theory was that the fact that why would Padme even have any feelings for a young slave boy living on Tatooine? Like,
And they're only like 5 years apart, so when they get into their 20s,
Okay.
it's not as crazy though.
when you were 15 years old, did you look at 10-year-old girls and go like,
No.
"Boy, I can't wait till she grows up"?
When I was 15, I was looking at 25-year-old Natalie Portman.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, and she was looking at a Ewan McGregor
Yeah.
that was good looking, dashing, and had a lightsaber. You know.
Well,
What's that in your pocket?
But I mean, that's the only
Your
part of that.
lightsaber, or are you just happy to see me?
Both.
It's a dual lightsaber.
But it's the only thing that makes sense of that whole theory.
I see
everything else
episode
is
3 supporting it a little bit better, but
little.
Well, I want to talk
A
about
little
it.
bit.
I haven't watched episode 3 in a while, so I do want to revisit this a little bit when we do episode 3, and because most of the evidence she points out in the video is from episode 3.
Yeah.
Like the 0.5 seconds her hand is on his thigh doesn't make any sense.
All right.
And all the rest of the scenes, her hands either are on Anakin's shoulders or on his waist. So I mean, like that proof or whatever she gives makes no sense.
ridiculous.
Okay, so the love scenes or the beginning of the romance between them two. Anakin's creepy.
So creepy the whole entire time.
Killed the
It's,
women
like, so
and the
rapey.
children too.
Like when they're on Naboo and they're at the lake and he kind of just starts stroking her and she just looks at him, I literally felt uncomfortable.
Well, like
It's
then,
so off-putting.
yeah, like at the time, I kind of like didn't think anything of it just because I was
You're too young.
obviously a dumb little kid.
You're too young to make
But,
those.
yeah.
I mean,
I was
the
probably like stuffing my face with popcorn at that moment.
Yeah, because
But, like-
no lightsabers or lasers were happening. It's like, oh, this is I can eat and drink and go to the
No,
bathroom.
Yeah,
Shortly
But-
before your grandpa disowned you.
that was a couple years later.
3 years later.
But like now looking back on it, it's like girls don't like that.
No.
No,
I don't think guys like that.
I don't
It
like
was-
sand. It gets everywhere. It's rough. It's coarse.
Not like this planet is like sex and soft.
Doesn't it feel like that's a direction issue again? No,
with your metal
It's
hand.
also it's direction and like he's thinking he's way smoother than her skin and it's not working.
no.
It's just it doesn't work, and I wonder now. It actually is kind of clear why George Lucas went through so many different marriages. Things didn't work out.
It was the backstroke.
It's the sand being rough and trying to talk about sand when you're trying to like
George
rub up on her
Lucas
back.
lived in a desert when he was little. And that's why.
Yeah.
It's just
Why do you think there's so many desert planets in
He
Star
just grew
Wars?
up in Arizona. That's all it was. He was just like, I hate sand.
It gets everywhere.
It's rough.
place sucks.
It's in my beard.
Oh my god! I bet you. I
They're saying
guarantee
to my
you,
wife, too.
That sucks. That was pulled from real life. That was some real life dialogue he wrote down. It's like, oh, this shit's gold. You know,
I think he saw it on the back of a Wheaties box.
he was like, yeah.
That's the only part he actually directed. Was he's like, no, you got to say it like this.
No, creepier.
And Natalie, look at him like this.
And he just got like a prop metal hand
Natalie, just
rubbing her back.
He has one of those long claws that you used to pick up things with, and he just like.
The sand gets everywhere.
Back scratcher! Metal
I
back
was telling
scratcher!
Trevor with like the Palpatine thing. Ironically, so again, I'm little when I'm watching this. I had made the assumption before episode 2 that Anakin and Padme got together because, hey, she was Queen Amidala. Her daughter must be Princess Leia, right?
That does make sense.
It had nothing to do at all with her being a queen.
Right.
But that was my my one parallel. We were talking about it in the car. I was like, I had a kind of a Palpatine moment, not quite so obvious, but
No, that's actually a very logical leap.
Yeah.
sorry, Jeff.
Besides me not making the leap at all.
Yeah.
Even though
You just didn't even
jumped and
jump.
missed.
seriously, there were like red arrow signs.
Jump here.
flashing and
Jump
pointing.
here.
Yeah.
Jump here. And you were just
You
like,
just wait for the earthquake to move the continents
So
together.
should I jump there?
Wait a second. What?
wait, Africa and South America fit together in the continental divide?
What?
What? They fit?
No.
That's a coinkydink.
But yeah, okay. So that's creepy as hell. That little scene.
And like I said earlier, whenever he talked about killing the women and children, she said, "I'm out." I was
it.
thinking you were cute. We rolled around the grass. You rode on that weird fat animal, and it pretended to be pretended to be wounded.
The weird
but like
animal.
That was
That's how he's showing off.
that was relatively believable. It wasn't awful. I mean, it was. I could watch that one. Okay.
George Lucas said, "I just specifically wanted to see two young, pretty people rolling around the grass."
Well, who doesn't?
Did he really?
Weird
I want to see that.
More or less. More or less. That's one of the things he was saying in the commentary.
And then
lovely.
the scene in the evening where she's in that sort of dominatrix suit.
she's like, "I'm going to spank you," and he's like, "Yes, please," and she's like, "No, I'm a senator."
No, I'm senator.
But also during the commentary for that scene,
We don't do those things.
We don't do those things on Naboo.
like I feel like both their performances are really wooden in this scene,
Yeah, it's true.
and Rick McCollum was like so proud of this scene because he's like, we with digital compositing, we can cut each of them out, and then we could like use two different takes and put them together, and we use the two best takes. I'm like, really?
Yeah,
Those were the best.
These are the best takes out of all the takes of this scene.
Say.
I am like, I'm sky. All the things they tell me about what's happening in the movie, I'm like, really?
It's worse.
This is the best
It
thing
gets
you
worse
got.
and worse.
It's like, it's not like they didn't have time. They're running out of time. It's just like, no, yeah, this was the best ones we got.
And
what?
and it doesn't make. I mean, okay, there's some great scenes. I mean, there's a great point where Anakin says, "Well, we don't have to tell people," and she goes, "We'll be living a lie," and then that kind of still it exposes more of who Anakin is. Like he has this like deceitful side of him. Like he's gonna hide things from Obi-Wan and the Jedi Council.
Well,
So
I don't even think he was really hiding things. Like whenever they let them go on the planet, like Obi-Wan and the captain are like, "Oh, I wonder who's gonna make the first move." Like they're just like betting on it. Like they're just like.
yeah, no, but
Obi-Wan knows.
I
He's
never
gonna-
felt like that was that. I felt like that was like they're two young kids.
they're two crazy kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I always wondered how like Obi-Wan.
I'm pretty sure
never
you've
found
seen her
out.
dominatrix outfit before. I'm sure. He's a security person. He's been
how did
through a wardrobe.
How did Obi-Wan's force in enlightened force sense not pick up?
Well, it's not even just Obi-Wan. Like Mace Windu, like Yoda, any of the.
I think we
Jedi
kind of
Masters. How
like
did
put
they
down
know?
like that Yoda and Mace were kind of like out of it. They just were like absentee parents. They're just like they show up once. They were like Anakin was like the latchkey kid of the Jedi Council. It's just like they just let yourself in and heat up your dinner.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, the prequels and the Clone Wars in general, to me, like demystified the Jedi with like the midi-chlorians, and then just seeing Jedi just getting beaten so easy. Like in the original trilogy, you think these Jedis are like they stand head and shoulders above everybody, but then like in the Clone Wars, there's like a scene where like Obi-Wan and some other Jedi were getting like stumped by a single bounty hunter. I'm like, really? Like I just
He was a really good bounty hunter, though.
Yeah, he was really cool though.
He had the big sombrero. Yeah, he was great. But
Cad Bane.
but I just all these Jedi are just dying so easy. I was like, I thought these were like the best of the best, and they're just dying to these nobody. It's like I felt like they just demystified the Force and wussified the Jedi.
It kind of makes Star Wars like a bigger universe though, because like if there's these guys, the Jedi, and all of a sudden they get beat by one bounty hunter. Like, can you imagine all the other bounty hunters in the universe that maybe
the
like,
badass bounty hunters?
all like the cool things, and that's the thing that I like about.
It just sparks your imagination.
All they have, but all they
exactly.
have is like tech. Like Jedi's have this mystical force, this power. They are literally super.
They're
human
not
or
gods.
super alien.
I always kind of thought them as like samurais that were like kind of magicians. That's all I kind of figured.
But like that magic gives them power that
Samurais,
nobody else
kind
has.
of magicians.
Half samurai, half magician.
That's in their resume.
We need a new word for this. We'll call them Jedi.
So
Return of the Jedi.
So anyway, the love scenes is a complete failure, in my opinion. I mean,
Sure.
do you guys feel any different about that?
Yeah.
I think in theory it should have worked. Execution was bad.
They are both beautiful people.
We should have pulled the.
I mean, you should have just wanted to see
Yeah.
that happen.
Yeah.
I mean, Natalie Portman, Hayden Christensen, they're just
Beautiful people.
I mean,
Just gorgeous.
yeah, you would kill to look like any of them, and they just.
I really want to look at Natalie Portman.
You just look. I would. I want to look like a Natalie Portman, but it was just like and they get together, and you're just like, this
Yeah,
is just creepy.
the chemistry-
There's
Yeah,
no
the
chem-
chemistry was so off.
There's no chemistry between the actors.
Yeah.
There's no direction to make me feel like they've actually fallen in love. It's just like, well, we were in a near-death experience, so might as well.
Yep. That's another thing that, in addition to Anakin's kind of what I think is a quick transformation in Episode 3, in this one it's a quick transformation for Padme because she's like, no, and then all of a sudden, okay, you know what the hell, let's do this thing.
Well, yeah.
Well, like, you know, George Lucas was saying like that Padme was sort of like showing that she liked him even on the transport to Naboo. So this is like early in the movie that
Right.
he's saying that this is when she starts to kind of like him.
kind
or
of
whatever.
like, you know, like he
It's
makes
like-
a little quip just before they got on the transport. He says, "Don't worry, we got R2. He'll protect us."
Oh,
and
he
all
was
that.
talking about humor at that point too. I'm like, really? Like that's not even funny.
Well, it's cute. It's cute. It's cute. You're just like,
Yeah.
you know. But I mean,
Sorry, the commentary has scarred me for life, guys.
I don't. I would never
Anytime you
watch-
mention something that's happened, I'm like, oh yeah, the commentary. This is awful.
David messaged me when he was watching. He was like, "Oh my gosh, this is bad.
He's just writing, dying.
Keep me alive."
I'm bleeding out all my orifices. This is
I may not be
painful.
able to make the podcast.
We talked. I mean, we were talking about the transformation of the dark side for Anakin and the third prequel, but this one we're seeing the beginnings of it. So you're sort of seeing Anakin being drawn. I mean, we see a quick scene between
Like a French girl.
Palpatine. Stop. A quick scene. The fuck, Dave. We see a quick scene with Palpatine and Anakin, how he sort of is enticing him that it's like, oh, you're finally getting your own mission.
Yes.
And so you can sort of see his seduction.
His training
of it.
wheels are getting taken off.
Yeah, but you sort of see his seduction that he's feeding his ego, he's feeding what Anakin wants.
I do like that walk.
It's very good.
It's like, oh, Palpatine and Vader kind of walking together.
And you kind of like that was a great scene because you're like, okay, I can see he's stringing them along and he's planting these little seeds. Oh, stop!
Trevor thought he was just some politician that also had the name Palpatine.
It's like, why does this guy keep showing up?
He's just a weird, creepy pedo. He's like, look, you're a kid. I'm gonna keep an eye on you.
He's just like this weird, like extra
Weird old guy.
character, Yeah.
Weird old guy interested in an
he's
8-year-old
oddly
kid.
prominent, but not too much. Almost like he's in the background.
Yeah.
So you see that.
Bottom half of his face looks exactly the same as that other old guy's.
Weird.
Obviously, the attraction to Padme is kind of breaking away from the Jedi code. And then the sand was mother. He's having the dreams, the premonitions. And this is the part where I kind of felt like Obi-Wan at some point should have been like, let's just take a visit to Tatooine. It's like, it can only take us like a day to get there, you know, back and forth. This is my best friend I go everywhere with.
Well, I mean, remember, they did get to Tatooine from Naboo with no hyperdrive.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying it should have been like let's
next
take
door neighbors.
Just take the trip.
I mean, it's mine kind of thing.
Yeah, it's your friend. Let's just check in on your mom. I mean, would that be so?
I have no choice, Padme.
He could just say,
I gotta go check on my mommy.
He could just say. I mean, he could just say because
She hasn't called me in 6 days.
Well, I can like still watch you when I'm watching her.
Oh gosh.
Well, anyways,
I can protect.
are there
you
any
both.
scenes or
Dead
anything
on.
else that stand out more with it? I mean, obviously he kills the sand people, which is a huge red flag.
Yeah.
But for you, the seduction of his innocence and turning him into the dark side begins here more than anything.
Well, what's funny is I thought that scene when Anakin finds his mom in the hut. I thought
Jabba the Hutt?
Yeah. Crossover.
He gets a big old hole in him and he
Going
walks in. Like his insides look so weird.
I just want to say this. I just came up with an idea when I was watching this is a Hutt as a stand-up comedian. I think that's a great idea. I'd love to see that. Okay, go on.
Hey, Misa, do da poodle.
And everyone's laughing.
So I felt like that scene where Anakin finds his mom was intense, even
Yes.
though it wasn't like super graphic. But
I feel like it wasn't like long enough. I felt like that
you
scene
need
was
it
almost too
longer?
rushed.
Do you like the Saw movies?
Yeah. No, I don't.
I thought that it really hit the mark, and seeing that happen, like, really, I thought that was kind of executed well.
Yeah.
Like, she's a mess, obviously, and she's kind of been holding on just to see him one more time.
Was that the same actress?
Yeah.
Okay.
Same actress.
Cornelia
makes
August.
Yeah.
They just had a guy punch her in the face a lot.
A couple times.
Rick McCallum.
Rick McCallum, because he didn't want to spend the money on special effects.
Ironically, the one thing.
She got paid real well.
I thought that was
It's really
pretty tough.
intense. It's a hard scene to see. I mean, just like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Like,
think
what are these sand people doing?
Yeah, that
You
kind
know?
of villainized
Breeding
that.
stock.
Yeah. I didn't think anything else in the movie was particularly pulling Anakin there more than that. I think that was just a little bit jarring. And like I said, when I was younger, I thought that there was almost a really intense scene. Nowadays, obviously, you see stuff like Game of Thrones, Walking Dead, you're like, oh, that's nothing. But, like, emotionally speaking.
It's a rough scene. I mean,
She's tied to some weird wooden pole thing.
Yeah,
and
like,
just
it's messed up.
It
Yeah.
is.
It's really messed up.
It is.
It's like, what are they doing to her?
Exactly.
Is there anything from you, Trevor, when you saw it and you're just like, this is Anakin becoming the villain?
Not really.
He's still the good guy, I know
You
it.
have seen this movie, right?
Anakin becomes Vader.
Real dumb kid. Yeah, I mean, I guess really like looking back, just the whole sand people killing all the sand people and finding his mom. and
That's
stuff
pretty
like that.
messed up, yeah.
Yeah, that's got to be like one of the. I mean, if not the tipping point for him, where he just kind of like loses it. I mean, the whole idea of him and Padme like falling in love and like going against the Jedi Code. I guess you could kind of say like that's the tipping point.
It's
little
also,
bit.
It is,
It's
yeah.
also
Point of
exactly
no return for that.
It's also exactly Yoda's saying. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to he was scared of his mom. Then his mom died. Turned to hate and anger, and then
Yeah.
suffering. He made all the sand people suffer for.
Sure.
It's just Yoda's like little
And his own
things
suffering.
played out.
His own suffering.
Well, it ultimately leads to his own suffering over longer time, but it's starting. But all four phases worked out in this one scene.
Was there anything else that you saw, Dave, that you were like, this is sort of his seeding into the...
I mean, nothing else in particular that we haven't gone over.
Yeah.
It's definitely the seed. It's definitely like the tipping point, and then his maniac saying, "I can cure death. I can cure cancer."
Well, that's the next movie.
No. But when he was complaining the Padme in the garage, she's like,
Oh,
"I can
right.
cure death. I can be more powerful."
That is
It's all-
probably
it's-
where Padme should have walked
Yeah,
out.
exactly. Like this,
Just-
that whole
It's a
scene's
little
like
scary, yeah.
Just walk into the ship and just like, R2, we're leaving.
like the red letter
just,
media.
just leave him on Tatooine.
Leave him with his C-3PO. They can hang out and buddy. Like C-3PO going with him didn't even
Anakin.
make any sense, other than that. Oh, I guess I'm technically ownership reverts to the next of kin.
Yeah.
Padme, why'd you leave me here? Oh, we had to go space grocery shopping.
Although she did technically get married, so technically her husband should have been the next of kin for the robot to go. I don't know. C-3PO just happened to come with him, and then
They're just like,
they had all
this
this dumb,
guy is just weird. He never shuts up.
they had all this dumb stuff where his head gets switched with one of the battle droids. And
that
it's
is
like,
just...
it didn't need to be. None of that needed to be there.
That just needed
That's,
to be
I think
worked
that's
out.
just like another one of those things where like I know you guys are so caught up on like Jar Jar being a Sith Lord or whatever.
Yeah.
Obviously that never like took off with me just because I always viewed Jar Jar just to be too much comic relief in a movie that didn't need any more than it should have.
Yeah.
So just like 3PO losing his head and switching it with the battle droid, it's just another one of those moments where I cringed.
It
I
just
cringe a lot.
it literally is one of those scenes that just doesn't have to be
Yeah,
there.
it honestly
didn't have
does
to.
not
You could
at
have
all
just
need to be
you
there.
could have eliminated that whole sequence.
Yeah.
I mean, even the whole sequence where they're Padme and Anakin are on the conveyor belts and they're
Oh, that's
I kind of like that, but no,
it could have been trimmed down.
yeah.
It could have been trimmed
Oh,
down. I thought it got a little silly.
That part was overly long, most definitely.
Yeah, and it gets to a point of like complete unbelievability.
And then the digital Jango Fett there.
No
at the
one,
end.
no one would actually survive that thing. I don't care if you've got superhuman sense. And Padme was on it too. She doesn't have any superhuman senses.
It's
So,
like for me when I saw Indiana Jones Kingdom of Crystal Skulls. Like I saw it in the theaters
hard time.
and I just sat there and I was like, I'm going to suspend my disbelief. It's just a movie. Enjoy. And then when Shia LaBeouf starts swinging through the trees with the monkeys, I was like, I can't do it anymore.
do this.
This is like I could handle him being in the fridge getting shot off with the.
Oh no, I couldn't stand that.
I'm
Like
very aware that I'm sitting here.
The movie fell apart for me right when the.
No, I could handle that part. I could handle that part.
I hung my head in disbelief.
But that was where I go, no.
There's so many different parts of that movie that like
We're just digressing
seriously.
into a totally different movies now
exactly.
because
I had a question for you guys with Anakin's kind of descent to the dark side. Do you think it? I know Lucas kind of played it up that, and they do in episode 1 that he's too old, yada yada. He's seen too much of life. Do you think? What is your feeling on that? Like, should they have left him there? Obviously, we saw what happened with Vader,
Honestly,
but
I think that maybe
because Luke was old,
I feel like the age thing is stupid. Like
it contradicts itself with Luke.
no, but I think
it just doesn't make any. They started saying, "Oh, he's too old to begin the training," and then like he's 9, he's still too old to begin the training. I'm like, what?
well, obviously,
like
most in their lore, the Jedi are basically plucked
abducted from
at birth. Yeah,
But the thing is, like, I don't understand the whole monkish. Not it must be so hard to find Jedi when Jedi aren't the ones doing the reproducing. And given that it passes strongly from family line to family line, it seems like the Jedi should be trying to procreate with other Jedi and make badass Jedi.
their argument would probably be that they don't want any emotion involved.
yeah, and I think
Just
that's-
Ponfar it. Just Ponfar. Once every 7 years. It's fine.
I think that's
It works
why-
for the Vulcans.
That's why they don't have like older kids as like apprentices,
Right.
just because.
But then you don't have to steal them from other families. You're just like, oh, we're just gonna like procreate. We'll just make a super Jedi baby, and then we'll just raise them in our crazy
then you have a strong
philosophy.
connection
Here's-
to like your mom, and that's kind of what happened with.
Well, no,
Anakin.
Yes.
but like maybe you'll have like Jedi from different sect, and they just trade babies.
Well,
That way they're not.
babies. So this is getting pretty.
Like a foster Jedi.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean that way there's no attachment. It's like they keep their no attachment thing.
Here's the thing:
they don't ever get married. They just kind of cycle through. Like, oh, who needs to procreate next? We'll just cycle through. Just to keep the bloodline going.
Just pop
it
one
just
out
seems
for us.
far
Yeah.
too complicated, Dave. Here's the thing: is like I agree with you. I think if Anakin was found before he got emotional attachments with his mother, I think maybe you could have circumvented some of those emotional issues that he was grappling with.
But I think even like with that, he didn't necessarily have a father. He was kind of created by the Force,
Which is
which itself is so stupid.
Isn't it
Jar Jar's the
saying he
father.
basically manipulated that, or
playing
his
it.
master did?
I'm pretty sure. Like,
It's never 100% clear.
the way he says in the episode 3, the story of Darth Plagueis, that he could create life. I figured that he passed it on to Palpatine, and Palpatine was the father.
I thought so too.
That's
because
what
Palpatine looks at
how I
him
took.
and kind of looks like life, and he
Yeah,
looks at Anakin like I did this. Like,
But then there's also all these episode 8 theories that are saying Snoke was actually the father of Anakin.
we don't know anything yet.
We don't know anything, but
it's a
it'll
whole
be
different can of worms.
whole different.
Yeah.
But it's all sort of kind of related.
I-
And since it was never explicitly said that he was the father, just like
They left
it was
it open.
never explicitly said that Jar Jar's a Sith Lord, it's still possible. It just is never explicitly said.
Sure.
I do think there's some credence to that if he would have been found before, I think there's some reasonable, but he was so strong with the Force that they accepted him in.
Yeah.
So
They took a chance. Yeah.
He's the chosen one.
yeah.
There's also another interesting theory that Count Dooku was. I mean, not Count Dooku. Mace Windu was super against the training of Anakin because he thought he was the chosen one. Because
saw that too,
because
yeah.
he was supposed to bring balance to the dark side, to the light side and dark side, because supposedly he's a very angry Jedi.
say what again?
That's a tasty burger. but
Royale with cheese.
Big Kahuna Burger, not from McDonald's. But
I never heard that. That's interesting.
But I heard they said that's the reason his lightsaber is purple. It's a mix of red and blue.
There is a book.
Because he's balanced. He feels like he's the chosen
He
one.
walks the border. So I
He
read
Walks the line.
there's a book called Shatterpoint that is now in the past canon legend, if you
Legacy.
will.
Yeah.
And it talks about he leads this. It's between episode 2 and 3. This legion of troops on some jungle planet, and it's horrible that something goes wrong. He has to survive kind of on his own. And it talks a little bit about that and why his lightsaber is the way it is, and because of his fighting style and how he almost harnesses the dark side, but not quite. So, and that's why he's got the purple one. So there is some credence to that, I think.
So, it's an interesting theory. I mean, I know that it's not part of the expanded universe is not part of the current canon, but it's still interesting that people are postulating theories and. I try to read a bunch of Star Wars theories because I'm really interested in seeing because the Jar Jar one was so good. I just try to see if any other ones have come close. And a lot of the other ones are pretty terrible. But
that was in connection with the one that we talked about on Walking Carpet with
Ray Palpatine. I love the Ray Palpatine.
Yeah,
theory.
I like that one too.
I hate it because I believe it.
We talked about Mace Windu being Snoke, and that was part of the theory.
Oh yeah, we had
being Snoke.
Oh, the Mace Windu being Snoke is like it's not a bad theory. I just don't think it's actually going to happen.
No, I don't think.
I actually don't think it's a great theory. I think it's such a stretch.
I think it's really interesting. I mean, he just gave himself completely to the dark side. Like after and Anakin is the one that kind of messed him up. So I mean, Anakin didn't step in and save him. So I can definitely see him kind of being after the Skywalkers after.
He's just like one of those characters, though, and especially in Episode 2 and Episode 3, where he's like a main character, not necessarily a main character, because there aren't really any main characters in the prequels.
There's no protagonist.
No protagonist. But we
started saying that totally on Walking Carpet. It was great. We're like, as our friends at Synthaholics say, protagonist.
We were talking about how that might be like the anti-metachlorine.
Oh, the antagonist is
That's
the
awesome.
contraceptive to that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Midi-chlorian prophylactics.
Right.
It's perfect.
It is beautiful.
Yeah, so I don't know. This movie has shining, gleaming moments where you're like, "That's pretty cool," and then there's parts where it just completely falls down.
Yeah.
And I almost feels it's everything that has acting in it is where it falls down.
Anything that's not computer animated is where it just totally falls.
Yeah.
Again, you think that's a result of
George
direction
Lucas's-
and not the actors and actresses.
George Lucas, in my
The
opinion,
actors and actresses are all good. I mean, Hayden Christensen, I'm kind of iffy on because I haven't really seen him in anything else.
he's okay.
Yeah, he's a good actor.
But everyone else I know for sure is a great actor.
In my opinion,
it's a big cast list, right?
yeah. In my opinion, George Lucas is an amazing world builder.
I mean, the kid who plays Boba Fett's not that good, but I mean, whatever.
You're gonna bag on a kid.
Yeah, you suck. Anakin should kill you. Oh, I'm sorry. Hope Anakin takes a lightsaber to your face.
I do wonder when he took that helmet, did he have to pry his father's head out of it?
Yes. No.
Did he just kinda go-
No.
It's like a bottle of ketchup, banging on it.
No. When he picked it up and touched his head forehead to it, his father's head should have fell out.
You know, it would have been a great
the
scene.
worst.
Would have been a great scene if he had it under his arm and they had what's his name, Todd Rundgren's song. You're like, I don't want to work, I just want to bang on the drums all day. That would have been a great scene if someone do that.
I bet you someone on YouTube has created that. Him holding it up to his head and then Django's head just falling out. We got to look at this tonight.
There has to be something out there.
Like behind the scenes bloopers or something like that. And they all like kind of chuckle, like all the crew.
That would have been really funny if they did that to scare the kid,
if
to freak him out.
They actually put it in there.
If they did like those outtakes as a joke and they put it at the end of it,
That would have been
awesome.
awesome.
Been so amazing.
Because it would have said that it was self-aware, right?
Yeah,
If they
yeah.
know that it's okay.
yeah. Like
Oh, that would have been.
that would have
perfect.
made that movie.
I would have gone to see it even more times than episode
I
one
would too,
if
yeah.
they had that really funny joke
Yeah,
at the end.
Yeah, that would be great.
But I didn't see this one 7 times. It was probably 4 or 5.
I saw this one 3 times. I know that.
I saw the midnight showing.
I would have seen it the next day
And once again
after school.
and once again, I think the only reason I saw it like more than twice was like, what am I missing? Why is this not clicking? I mean, why is this not working?
I don't know. I think it's got everything that's almost there, and there's jigsaw puzzle pieces that just don't fit together, and then you're just like,
Yeah.
it's almost there. And
I hear you.
And I think it's mostly just because of that.
Jamie found
it.
Jamie found a video of his headphones.
Oh,
What is it?
she found the video. Okay.
Of his
So we're
headphones.
watching.
Oh my god!
There it is! So glad.
Send that to us so we can put it on our notes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's so good.
That's great.
Oh
I'm so
man.
glad we kind of came to that realization.
That's nice.
Well done, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, the internet.
Yeah.
About a minute later, it's there.
It's like it's the antithesis of Rule 34. It's like Rule 42 or something like that. It's like if you think of it, it's probably exists.
It happens all the time. I'll come up with some cool idea and then I'll just Google it. It's like, somewhere came up with this 5 years ago. You know,
It's awesome.
any other thoughts on this movie as we're kind of?
I don't know. Especially now that they've kind of expanded on the Clone Wars and the gap in between 2 and 3.
Yeah.
I've kind of have grown. It's grown on me a little bit more.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily like the style of cartoon that they did for like the animated series, like the CGI.
Yeah.
The 5 seasons.
It's really hard to watch this. Everyone's so
I'm-
angular and ugly.
Rebels does it a lot better, though.
Rebels
looks great.
Looks real good.
It's-
Like-
I'm more than happy with like
All the women,
animation
all the
style?
women in the Clone Wars look fine. They look like because they have smooth, like round edges, and they look like they could be people, sort of.
Round edges.
They-
Amen to that.
Not
No
sand,
snow
not
sand in
or so
there.
rough. But all the guys have these weird, like ugly,
Weird
angular
angly, yeah.
faces and like points everywhere. I'm just like, I understand it's a styling trying to make them look like manly, but I mean, they don't.
Yeah.
They don't look like people anymore.
Yeah. And I don't know. It's just some of the episodes are kind of like filler and like very childish. And I understand that it's meant to be.
It's
like,
rated
more
Y7.
Well, you know.
Well then.
I've seen all of the episodes at least twice, so that says something about me.
Jeez. Goodness. I just finished it
haven't-
like this year.
I haven't made it all the way through the Clone Wars. It's very, very hard.
I came
remember all
kind of
of
in and out. I would watch it for a few weeks, go out of it. You said you were watching as it was on TV.
It was on, and I'd catch it like here and there, and be like, I'll watch it, and I'd be like, "What the hell's going on?"
Yeah, I did the
Yeah.
Netflix thing, and
I should do back. I should go back on Netflix if it's worth it.
The chronological order that helps a little bit. There, if you Google it, it'll put them in order
shows
for you,
Yeah.
which is hilarious.
Because it's
That-
really
that's-
you got to do that.
Because like in season 3, there's episodes that take place like in season 1. Like it's
Yeah,
really
and I
weird.
didn't know
make any
that
sense.
until I was probably midway through season 2. I'm like, these are like one-off episodes. Like, there's no continuity here. And someone was like, a good friend of mine was, yeah, they're out of order, dude. I'm like, so weird. Well,
So
that makes
weird.
it better. That I
I wish they
understand that
would
now.
have stuck with that Samurai Jack style.
Yeah, that was a great
For,
show.
like, if
I
they
love
did 5
Samurai
seasons of
Jack.
that-
Samurai
Oh,
Jack.
yeah.
The animation style was amazing, and it was a great marriage of the two.
We got to watch those again.
But the thing is, like, I mean, like, with so much CGI being in the movies, it almost seems like they could have taken like their low res models from the movies and just ported them over
Yeah,
and
seriously.
put like cartoonier looking textures on them. It's like so much work. So much of the movies were CG. I mean, you just got to like grab those assets and just use the lower res versions of it, put a different texture on it, and now it looks like a cartoon.
Yeah.
How about you, Josiah? Any other parting thoughts on this movie?
I think some of those big scenes, like we mentioned, the action sequences between Obi-Wan and Jango, whether it was in space or on Kamino, stick out. The Clone Wars scene on Geonosis really sticks out to me. I enjoyed that lightsaber fight quite a bit.
With Dooku and Yoda?
Yep. The end fight with everybody there, and then I thought with the CGI it was hot and cold. There were some moments where you're like, oh, this is bad. Some moments it looked really good.
Yeah.
I know one
The
moment.
hardest scene of the entire movie was Anakin standing on top of the big fat beast.
Really, mine was.
that looks bad.
And it looks awful.
Yeah, it looks
he's like
horrible.
Rick McCollum said this is like one of the hardest scenes to do.
That's so sad.
Although it's hard because he says a lot of the scenes are the hardest scene to do, so it's kind of hard to peg him
They're
down.
all the hardest. So, I have not watched the commentary in years, but I do remember one thing where
Don't do it again. It's not worth it.
I know you did it for me. Thank you, Dave.
Not worth it.
Either Rick or George says at the very end when Dooku's on his solar sailor going towards like the outskirts of Coruscant that was like the scene they were most proud of, I think. And Dooku stands up in the digital solar sailor and you see him walking before it lands. Kind of cool, but like that's the thing you're most proud of. Like
Really? Like
everything?
how hard? I mean, you
I
just,
don't know. It's like
And how did they not catch the solar sailor?
It has a cloaking device.
Yeah, I see.
That big giant sail sticks out. Like, what's that thing pulling?
One thing I do want to mention that I absolutely adore from this movie was John Williams' soundtrack. I think even to the point of
the soundtrack was the best part about episode 1.
The
Well, the
love
soundtrack-
theme was beautiful.
Yeah.
If only the performances could have matched
And
that.
then, and then the creepy robot hand taking Padme's hand at the end too. It was just like
Bizarre. So
That's another one of those
it looks like the Terminator's
I
hand.
wanted the Family Guy Star Wars when the Empire Strikes Back edition of that.
Yeah.
Like the medical droid's like, practice on a hot dog, kid, or you'd rip your dick off. It was a perfect way to end it.
That's
I wish
awesome.
that should have been in the movie.
Family Guy got it right, folks. So I enjoyed it. It's my favorite of the prequels.
Good old family.
This is
Over
your
3.
Really?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
I know I'm in the minority on that one, but over 3.
I think Plinkett likes it even less than episode 1.
Yeah, a lot of outlets and fans in general rank it lower than 1, but I think it's hard to do.
And Dave, for you, any parting thoughts on this movie?
Don't watch the commentary, please, for the love of God.
Yeah.
Don't do that to yourself. I was bleeding from so many orifices. I needed so much cotton swabs.
My thought was that Phantom Menace was like George Lucas trying to get back into the game. He sucked.
You should have started with Red Tails.
Attack of the
Oh
Clones.
my gosh, Red Tails.
Attack of the Clones. He got a little bit better, and then Revenge of the Sith.
He lost it again?
No, I thought it was pretty decent, but that's just my opinion. Okay, I'll leave it at that. That's where I'm at.
All right.
That'll be for the next Synthaholics Star Wars edition.
Yeah, we'll be doing episode 3. We'll be doing it with Josiah and Robbie.
I'm so excited for that.
And just before we do our outro, giving out all the where to find us, we have an email. I don't know if it's from a listener though.
I would say definitely.
You think it's from a listener?
I just have that hunch.
I mean, you kind
it's just-
of read it before a little bit, and it sounded like they were.
They really
at least
cared.
at least a part-time
You know,
listener.
it sounds like they did the voice memo kind of thing or voice texting, and it didn't. Maybe you'll see.
Yeah.
This is from Eva JB. Hello, how are you today? I went through your profile at Facebook. Site Angel, return and found. Out that we can. Make a good match. And I would like you to contact me through my email address so that I can tell you more about myself. Waiting for your mail, your Eva.
You read that like Shatner on a Priceline.
I was reading it by the line. By the line how it was written.
We make good match.
Well, it's just I was reading each of the lines as separate lines. To capture the essence of this email we got at synthaholics@yahoo.com.
Definitely real. So I would say
We should
do make a good match.
really respond to this, and we should try
what
to
happens to that.
see where this relationship blooms.
Yeah. Will you bring us more listeners, Eva? I really hope you will.
That's kind of symbolic of like the Anakin Padme relationship.
Will you-
there.
will you
Just
listen-
something,
Eva, will you listen long time?
Oh no!
Hey, and even if they ask for your social security number, just go for it.
Go for it.
You
Just
need-
do it.
You need to listen.
Give Eva our credit card numbers.
Yeah.
It's okay.
The passwords to our website and all that stuff. Yes.
It'll be legitimate.
Eva,
We do it all the time.
we split it 50-50. It'll be a good relationship.
It's gonna be good.
Your relationship with like 3 people, Aaron, it's
great.
going to be really difficult.
It is what it
I'm
is.
just gonna. I'm just gonna apologize
It's the
right off the
weirdest,
bat.
the weirdest 4-way ever.
I'm just gonna apologize right off the bat. I'm so sorry.
We see the dynamic who holds the show down here. He's just like, fuck it, let's do it. And it's like, no.
That's how it
Rein it
goes.
in.
That's how it goes.
All right, so where can we find you guys on social media so that all of our
You go first, Trevor.
Okay.
A lot of underscores.
Who's Palpatine.com?
Palpatine #Palpatine truthers.
My Twitter is @Trevor_White_, and I have the hardest time saying that whenever we do podcasts or like our YouTube videos. Like it's Trevor_so_.
Oh,
We go, hey, Trevor, where can we find you?
I don't know. I forgot my Twitter.
So good. I'm @Josiah D. Leroy.
all right. And obviously the
Geekiverse.com.
Geekiverse.
Geekiverse. There's an I there.
It's okay.
Just stop, Dave.
You should put an A there. Or an E with an accent mark.
Yeah, for all our French listeners. For all our French Canadians.
That would be
Geekiverse.
underscore verse.
And obviously, the Geekiverse is where you can find your articles that you write and also your podcast as well. They're all linked there.
A lot of media coverage on. We do video game reviews.
They did video stuff from the Comic-Con that's up on there, too?
Yeah, absolutely.
We did like a whole bunch of E3 stuff when all those games came out.
Nice.
Yeah, so you can find us on youtube.com/c/the Geekiverse for our web content. And then you guys mentioned our shows on iTunes. We have Walking Carpet that Trevor and I host, which is all Star Wars. He's got Walking Red. We do a lot of walking. We found out.
Walking trends. Hashtag walking.
Nailed it. So now it's the Walking Synthaholics.
The walking. Yeah.
Awesome.
But yeah, you can download those today.
All our music is provided by Warp 11. You can find them at warp11.com. You can find us online on Twitter at Synthaholic Duo. I am at David_J_Duncan.
I'm Blackbird 2004.
Guy is GS Davis Art. Our email address is synthaholics@yahoo.com. Our Facebook is facebook.com/groups@synthaholics. Come check us out. If you want to give us money, we have a Patreon.
Please.
Patreon.com/synthaholics.
$1 is all we ask.
Legitimately support these guys. We've had a blast. We look forward to doing this a lot
this
more
is
in the
so
future.
fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
Thank
It
you
was
very
so
much
fun.
for having us on.
It was
Well,
very
thank
fun.
you so much. And Guy Davis, our other co-host who couldn't be here tonight, he's at a con. He does a Star Trek comic, the USS Tamerlane, and he's doing a new one, The Witches of Flame. He also has a Patreon, so you can support his artwork because he is an artist for a living.
Yes.
And
Awesome.
that's patreon.com/GSDavisArt.
To iTunes. Just go on iTunes, leave us stars, put a review, because if you put a review, more people will find us, more people can enjoy us, and we know you love our show, and you want to keep that little. It's like when you find that band, and you're like, "This is my band," and all of a sudden the band blows up, and everybody knows that band. And you're like, "I like them before anybody else."
And then
You know, we're not
And then
going to
you hate that band.
You know,
now hate later.
we're not going to sell out. We're going to keep bringing the same kind of content. Although I guess technically doing non-Star Trek stuff, are we selling out?
Yeah.
Be like
we're not
Ava,
gonna,
right in.
we're not going to sell out any more than we already have. So
Yeah.
so please spread the word.
Yeah, so let people know. Give us some rating reviews. It'd be great. Put some stars up there. 5 stars, please.
We're also on Google Play Music, and iHeartRadio. So, wherever you find your podcast, we are there stalking you
And
waiting
more-
for you to click listen.
And more importantly
Waiting to
than
stroke your back.
Uncomfortably with my metal hand.
And more importantly, tell your friends, anybody who might be interested in sci-fi, Star Trek, Star Wars, any of that stuff that might just silly humor, that might want a different podcast, direct them our way. Let people know. That's word of mouth is wonderful.
Word of mouth is wonderful. We don't advertise the show any other way, and we're here to make you laugh, and we hope you do, and we hope you want to help other people laugh. So, hook us up. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much all for listening. Thank you, Josiah, and thank you, Trevor. I'm so bad with names.
Scott.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Scott.
Most definitely, Scott. Thank you, Trevor, Scott, and Josiah, so much for joining us to be on this show tonight. It has been an absolute pleasure.
It's been great.
This has been awesome. Thanks.
All right. Live long and prosper, everyone. Or may the Force be shorts with you.
May the Schwartz be with you.
Always.
In the sink and we'll cry till we laugh, and we'll both shit our pants. You're the best drinking friend I ever had.
There's probably 12 or 13 of us in our group.
Sure. But I want to focus on you two.
Sure. I cover I cover our Star Wars Rebels reviews.
Okay.
So you can mention that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And then
Gotham.
Yep, I'll be reviewing that. You could mention I host a podcast for us called Geek Scott Game. They're all video game podcasts.
Geek Scott Game?
Geek Scott Game.
Oh, Got Game.
Yep.
Geek
But I'm
Scott.
changing the title now.
Geek Scott.
Because I like that better. Now we
Like Michael Scott.
No one, but nobody named Scott has to be on the show.
Nobody's got it. It's just like a
Cannot
mythical.
have.
He's mythical.
Talked about him.
He's our imaginary
Like he's there.
co-host.
Yeah.
Sitting next to you, but he never says anything.
Scott, what a guy.
Scott.
Just talk like he's the greatest guy that ever happened, you know?
Dude, the other day we went out on Scott's boat. I don't know if you've ever been on it, but it's amazing.
Trevor, it's October.
What was that, Scott? Hey, that was very insensitive to say, Scott.
It's a heated boat, Joe.
What the hell did you just call me?
I don't think Scott's mic is working. Like, how long do you think you can just keep that going?
It would be funny if we talked, waiting for him to answer.
Guys, I just want you to know, I don't think Scott's mic is working.
Or
It
it would be even funny if you had somebody in the other room and they just scream something, but it's completely inaudible. You just hear something.
What was that, Scott? Oh, yeah.
It's just so dumb.
Scotty.
Talking in your show.
Okay.
Pretty good.
And then what have you been working on for the Geekiverse?
I do our Walking Dead articles, like
Walking
the
Dead.
reviews. I'm reviewing Skyrim right now.
Skyrim Remastered.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good.
Well, we kind of co-host Walking Carpet.
Yeah, Walking Carpet.
Okay.
And Walking Red was
Yeah, there's a lot of shit going on.
Yeah.
Trevor
House of
hosts
the Walking Dead
Walking Red.
Because I have a red
Ginger
beard.
Is it Walking Red
Yeah,
podcast?
Walking Red.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to get it all right, so.
That's so good. Oh, I missed that.
You didn't see that? It was perfect. It's like,
Oh, I
the
saw
zombie.
it. You thought you were hilarious.
I thought I was.
I do remember a bunch of Hobbs, and I
Zombies
don't
don't
remember
talk.
anything
They'd
else.
just be a boring show. All you hear is wah over and over again.
Wah, wah,
Did you
wah.
I thought you were drunk.
I thought it was being funny. Nobody laughed at it.
Interviewing just the zombies.
You just hear your internal laugh track going the entire time.
As I was typing it, I even typed like a bunch of ha-has over and over again. I thought it was really funny.
Joker.
All right. Anything else we want to talk about just before we? I mean, just to organize before we get in.
What's your name again? I'm horrible with
Trevor.
names. Trevor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got.
What's your name again, Josiah?
Josiah.
Scott.
No! No Scots allowed!
He will fuck
Can't
this
be on the
up.
show anymore now.
He will fuck this up.
Okay, I'm bad with names. Yeah.
Post that in
All right. Jeff, let's do this.